This is Joseph Drust, and welcome back to another episode of AskZBrush. So we had a question sent in asking, I've extracted a subtool using double-sided. Is there a way to delete the inner side? So to start off, I just have ZBrush loaded up, and I just have a polysphere here loaded in. And the question is asking about using extract. Now, extract inside of ZBrush allows you to apply masking to a model. And then if you go to the Tool Palette, Subtool area, Extract area, here you can take that masking and you can extract that masking to a new subtool. So to do this, you just need to hold down Control and apply some masking to your mesh, and then come over here and click on Extract. And this is now going to give you a new subtool based on a desired thickness generated from that masking. Now, when using this process, there is this double featured right here. And if you activate this, what ZBrush is going to do, it's going to generate the extracted subtool based at your desired thickness, but it's going to double the thickness. So it's going to give you this thickness on the outer side of the model, and then also this thickness on the inner side of the model. So the question is asking about, after you've generated the extract using double, is there a way to remove that inner thickness? So I'm going to go through a few ways on how you can remove that thickness. So first, I'm just going to generate the extraction here from this masking with that double-sided option turned on. So I'm going to press extract, and this is going to give me a preview of my extraction, and then I'm just going to simply click accept. After this is processed, if I come to the subtool palette here, you'll see I have my original mesh and then also now the extracted subtool. So I'm going to turn the eyeball icon off on that polysphere, and you can see this is the mesh that was generated from that mask. I'm going to clear my masking on it by holding down Control and dragging off. And then I'm going to turn on my polyframes here. So when the extraction process happens, it's going to give me a front polygroup, a middle polygroup, and a back polygroup. And you'll notice that this extraction here has now given me a double version of that thickness. So what I want to do is I want to come through and I want to remove the double version of the thickness and just bring it back down to having the thickness that I typed in this extract slider there. So the first process you can do is you can just simply select just the outer polygroup of this mesh and then reapply the extraction. So to do this, I'm going to come across this polygroup here. I'm going to hold down Control and Shift to get this select rectangle brush. And then I'm going to simply click on a vertice that's on that polygroup there. And you'll see this is now only going to show me this part of the mesh. I can now come to the Tool Palette, go down to the Geometry area here, go to Modify Topology, and now Delete Hidden, and I'll only be left with this part. Now with this part selected, what I can do now is I can come down to the Display Properties, open this up, and click Flip. So this is going to take that mesh there, and it's going to take the faces and then flip them, so now they're appearing on the back side. Now after I have the faces flipped like this, I can now just simply reapply the extract. So I can go all the way back up to my tool, subtool area here. And now in the extract area, I can turn off this double-sided option and then simply click extract again. Now this may pop up a little dialog that's going to tell you that the active mesh does not contain any masking. So we're just going to click OK on this. And you'll see after that has been clicked, I'm going to get a preview and it's going to give me the thickness. And since I flipped the faces of the mesh, it's going to apply the extract now at the correct thickness, but it's going to do it in the opposite direction. So I'm going to come through and now click accept to that, and you'll see now I have that piece extracted. And if I turn my sphere back on, you will see that it's no longer penetrating the model. So that is the one process you can do. So just isolating the polygroup on the outer side of the extraction, then flipping the faces, and then performing the extraction again without the double-sided option turned on. So I'm just going to come through and delete these subtools I just made here. And then we're going to do this extraction process one more time. So with this one, I'm just going to extract again, make sure I have that double-sided active. And so I'm going to get this and then click accept. And I'm going to hide my sphere again. And then here we have our resulting mesh. Now the second way you can clean this up is you can use the zmodeler brush. Now if your mesh is extremely heavy, the process of doing the extraction again is going to be your best bet. If you have polygons that are pretty low like this one here, you can clean it up with the zmodeler brush with this process I'm about to show you. So the zmodeler brush is ZBrush's poly modeling brush. And so I can select this by going to the brush palette over here and open this up, and then just locate the zmodeler brush. Now with the zmodeler brush, it is a context-sensitive brush. So that means if I hover over a poly, an edge, or a point, I'm going to be able to apply different actions to my model. So I want to hover over one of the edges in this area here, and then I want to press spacebar to go in the zmodeler edge action menu. In here, I want to make sure that the action is set to insert, and then down here, I want to change the target to multiple edge loops. Now, when the target is set to multiple edge loops, if I come across this edge and simply click, it's going to apply one edge loop directly down the middle. Now, if you still have your mouse clicked and you scroll up and down, it's going to end up adding more edges in there, but we only want a single edge loop. So just scroll up and down and just make sure that you only have one edge selected in the middle there. Now, after I have this edge loop going right in the middle, this should be giving me the middle point of that thickness. So you can see one side should be the thickness that's in the slider, and then the other side should be the thickness in the slider. So now that I have a middle edge of topology across this entire mesh, what I can do is I can now Q-mesh this entire polygroup here and perform a weld action that will collapse this entire side to that middle line, giving me the thickness I desire. So to do this, I'm going to hover over a poly on the inner side of the extracted mesh. I'm going to press spacebar to go in the zmodeler poly action menu. I want to make sure I have the Q-mesh action selected, and then as a target, I want to make sure I have polygroup island selected. I want to now hover over one of the polygroups here, and then simply click and drag. And when you do this process, you want to do it pretty slowly. Especially if your mesh is pretty dense. And you'll see as I click and drag, it's going to remove that whole edge loop there and then collapse the model. So it's performing this weld action. So this is what I had. And as I click and drag inward, you can see it's removing those edges there. And then if I keep going, it will snap into place. And that should now be giving me that thickness I was looking for. So I've just gone through and removed that entire area and then welded the mesh with that Q-mesh action. So now if I turn off my polyframes here and go back and turn on my sphere, you can see I've now fixed that extracted subtool there, and it now has the desired thickness that I was looking for. So that was the brief rundown on 2 ways you can fix the model if you've gone through and accidentally applied double-sided when performing extract. So I hope that helps, and if you have any other questions related to ZBrush pipelines or processes, please use the hashtag AskZBrush on Twitter. Happy ZBrushing!